Okay, so you wanted to like really dig deeper into Dune. Part 2.
Right.
Like beyond just the basic like reviews and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to do today.
That's
so this
cool.
is like your shortcut to like really understanding everything about this movie.
That's a good way to put it. We're going to give you those like surprising behind-the-scenes facts, the stories that'll help you appreciate this movie even more.
Exactly. Like all the little details that make it so special.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you, our listeners, you can really grasp it.
Yes. And so for everybody who wants to know like everything about Dune, Part 2, buckle up because this is going to be a deep dive.
Yeah.
Okay, so like how about we just start with like the basics, like orient ourselves a little bit.
Sounds bad.
Okay, Dune. Part 2, this is the end, right? Of Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Frank Herbert's Dune.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like the continuation of Paul Atreides' journey with the Fremen and, you know, all the conflicts and stuff that come with that. It's a big story. So we're going to really unpack it all.
Right.
Okay, so where do you think we should start?
Well, let's start with some overall context.
Perfect.
Okay, so Dune, Part 2, first premiered in Mexico City.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on February 6th, 2024.
Wow. Okay.
And then it had a wider release in the U.S. on March 1st.
Gotcha.
And it's, you know, if you saw it in theaters, it was a pretty long movie.
Yeah.
It was 2 hours and 46 minutes.
I can imagine.
Yeah. But it seemed like people really liked it. You know, it has an 8.5 out of 10 rating on IMDb.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. And that's based on like over 615,000 ratings. So that's a lot of people.
Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty significant sample size.
And critics on Rotten Tomatoes loved it too. They gave it a 92% on the tomatometer.
Wow.
And that's from 456 reviews.
That's impressive.
It is.
It is.
And the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes was even higher.
Oh, wow.
95%.
No way.
Yeah, on the popcorn meter.
That's awesome.
And that's from over 5,000 ratings.
Wow. So like both critics and regular viewers really enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly. And Metacritic gave it a 79 out of 100.
Okay.
Which is based on 62 critics. So pretty much everybody agreed that it was good.
Yeah. So it seems like Villeneuve really struck a chord with this one.
Yeah. And it really hit all the right notes. You know, it's a space opera, it's action-adventure drama,
Yeah.
sci-fi. It's like all those things wrapped up into one.
Wow. So many different elements.
Yeah.
And speaking of hitting the right notes, Denis Villeneuve,
Yeah.
he directed the film, and he also co-wrote the screenplay
He did.
with John Spade.
That's right.
And obviously based on Frank Herbert's book.
Exactly. And the fact that Villeneuve was so hands-on
Right.
really helped create a cohesive and faithful adaptation. You know,
true.
to bring something so complex to the screen, it takes a strong vision.
Yeah.
And the scale of that vision, I mean, it's evident in the budget, which was about $190 million.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. But you can really see it in the visuals, you know, the grandeur of it all.
Yeah, and it definitely paid off at the box office.
Oh, yeah.
Dune 2. Part 2 made a whopping $714.6 million worldwide.
Wow.
It's one of the highest grossing films of the year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it just shows you how much it resonated with people all over the world, you know?
Right? It wasn't just a critical success, it was a commercial one, too.
Exactly. And it also got a lot of awards.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, 2 Oscars.
Wow.
For Best Sound and Best Visual Effects. And it was nominated for 3 others.
Okay.
So 5 nominations total, which is a big deal, you know?
Yep.
And those 2 awards in particular really show how strong the film is in terms of sound and visual effects.
Yeah, for sure. And it also won a couple of BAFTAs.
Yes, it did.
For the same categories.
Exactly. Best Sound and Best Special Visual Effects.
Wow.
Plus, it got 2 Golden Globe nominations,
Okay.
including Best Motion Picture Drama.
Yeah.
And it was even named one of AFI's top 10 films of 2024.
Yeah, I saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it got a lot of recognition from the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And the filming locations, they were pretty stunning too, right?
Oh, they were amazing. They filmed in Budapest, Italy, Jordan, and Abu Dhabi.
No way.
Wow. Yeah, and each location added something unique to the film. You know,
Yeah.
like the stark beauty of Jordan, it really captured the harshness of Arrakis. You know, that desert planet.
Right.
Yeah, you could really feel the environment in every scene.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we've talked about the film's reception and like how big of a deal it was, but what about the story itself? I think it's time to dive into a more detailed plot synopsis.
Sounds good.
As a reminder, this is a direct continuation of part 1.
Right.
So we're starting right where we left off.
Exactly, with House Atreides betrayed.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, so the film opens with Princess Irulan,
Oh, yeah.
the Emperor's daughter.
Okay.
She's giving us some important information about her father's role in the downfall of House Atreides.
Okay, so we're getting some backstory there.
Exactly. Then we see Paul and his mother, Lady Jessica. They found refuge with a Fremen tribe led by Stilgar
Okay.
at their Sietchtab.
And this is on Arrakis.
Yeah. Yeah, and right away you feel the tension. Some Fremen don't trust these outsiders, but others, like Stilgar, they see Paul and Jessica as the fulfillment of ancient prophecies.
So there's like a clash of beliefs happening.
Exactly. And then there's this really pivotal early event.
Okay.
It involves Jessica and the Fremen's spiritual leader.
All right.
Stilgar insists that Jessica undergo this really dangerous ritual.
Oh, yeah.
The Water of Life ritual.
What's that?
It involves drinking this toxic substance
Oh,
that's usually lethal to men and untrained women. But Jessica, thanks to her Bene Gesserit training,
Right.
she's able to survive.
Wow.
She basically transforms the liquid inside her, and as a result, she inherits the memories of all the Reverend Mothers who came before her.
That's insane.
It is, and it also awakens the consciousness of her unborn daughter, Aelia.
No way.
Yeah. So now Jessica can communicate with Aelia telepathically, even though she's still in the womb.
That's wild. Okay, so what happens next?
So Jessica and Aelia, even though Aelia is unborn, they decide to focus on convincing the northern Fremen about these prophecies.
Oh.
But Chani and her friend Shishakli,
Yeah.
they're more realistic. And they figure out that these prophecies are actually myths planted by the Bene Gesserit over generations.
As a way to control the Fremen.
Exactly. It's like long-term manipulation.
Wow.
But despite her skepticism, Chani starts to respect Paul
Okay.
because he shows that he really wants to fight alongside the Fremen, not rule over them.
Right. He wants to be one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so meanwhile, Paul's falling in love with Chani too.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And at the same time, he's really immersing himself in Fremen culture.
Okay.
He learns their language. He becomes a skilled warrior.
That's the Feyd-Rautha, right?
Yes, the Feyd-Rautha.
Okay.
They're elite fighters. He even learns how to ride the giant sandworms.
The sandworms?
Yeah. And he starts participating in raids against the Harkonnens, you know, the ones who are brutally harvesting the spice.
Right, right.
He even takes on 2 Fremen names, Usul,
Which means...
the strength of a pillar,
Okay.
and then his secret name, Muad'Dib, which refers to the kangaroo mouse of Arrakis.
So he's basically becoming a Freeman himself.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay, so while all of this is happening, what are the Harkonnens up to?
Well, they're not too happy about all these spice raids.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the Baron...
Baron Harkonnen.
Yeah, he decides to install his nephew, Feyd-Rautha, as the new ruler of Arrakis.
And Feyd-Rautha, he's not exactly known for his kindness, is he?
No, he's not. He's actually known for being pretty sadistic.
Right.
But the Bene Gesserit, they're interested in him too.
Really?
Yeah, they send Lady Margot Fenring to assess him
Okay.
as a potential Kwisatz Haderach.
And just remind me, what's the Kwisatz Haderach again?
It's like their ultimate goal. It's
Yeah.
a super being with prescient abilities,
Gotcha.
and they also want to influence his genetic lineage.
It's like everyone has their own secret agenda going on.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so what about Jessica?
So Jessica, she decides to travel south
Okay.
to align herself with the Southern Fremen. Okay.
Who are like super religious and totally believe in the prophecies.
Got it.
But Paul stays in the north
Okay.
because he keeps having these visions of a terrible holy war.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And he's afraid that if he goes south, he'll make that war happen,
Right.
you know, as their messianic figure.
I see. Okay, so what happens to Paul in the north?
Well, during a raid on a Harkonnen spice harvester,
Yeah.
he has this amazing reunion with Gurney Halleck,
Oh, wow.
who he thought was dead.
Right.
And then Gurney leads him to a hidden stash of atomic weapons.
Atomic weapons. What?
Yeah. They belong to House Atreides, like a legacy from the past.
Okay, so now things are getting really serious.
Yeah, they are. And then things take a very dark turn.
Okay.
Feyd-Rautha launches this surprise attack on the northern Sietches. Yeah, he wants to crush the Fremen resistance.
Right.
And it culminates in the destruction of Sietch-Tabr, and Shishakli is killed.
Oh, no, that's awful.
Yeah, it's a really tragic moment.
So what happens to Paul?
Well, he and the other survivors are forced to flee south, into the heart of the southern Fremen territory.
Exactly.
Okay, so Paul's in the south now.
Yeah.
And things are not looking good.
No, they're not. And in this desperate situation, Paul decides to drink the water of life himself.
Oh, wow, just like his mother.
Exactly, but it puts him into a coma.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and Chani is devastated.
I bet.
But Jessica, She uses her Bene Gesserit training
Right?
to get Chani to help revive Paul.
How does she do that?
She basically hypnotizes Chani
Wow.
and tells her to mix her tears with the water of life and give it to Paul.
Wow.
And it works.
That's amazing.
It is.
So what happens to Paul after he wakes up?
He's changed.
Okay.
He has these incredibly heightened powers of clairvoyance.
So he can see the future?
Kinda. He can see all these different possibilities
Okay.
across space and time. And he sees a path to victory.
Okay.
But it's a very dangerous path. And he also has this vision of his adult sister, Aaliyah.
Aaliyah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he sees a future Arrakis that's full of water and plants.
Wow.
It's a very different Arrakis than the one we know. And he also discovers a shocking truth.
What's that?
Jessica is actually the daughter of Baron Harkonnen.
What?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, the Bene Gesserit placed her as a concubine to Duke Leto.
As part of their breeding program.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a huge revelation.
It is.
It changes everything.
Yeah. And now Paul is empowered by this knowledge
Wow.
and by his newfound prescience.
Oh, God.
He gathers the southern Fremen
Yeah.
and he shows them that he can read their minds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then he declares himself the Lisan al-Gaib.
The what?
The Lisan al-Gaib, it's the messianic figure from their prophecies.
Right.
And then he challenges Emperor Shaddam IV.
Directly.
Yeah, head on.
Wow.
And the Emperor, he's not going to take that lying down.
Right.
So he arrives on Arrakis with his daughter, Princess Irulan,
Okay.
and his Sardaukar army.
The Emperor's elite warriors.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's like a showdown is about to happen.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
So while the Emperor is busy reprimanding the Harkonnens for
Yeah.
messing everything up on Arrakis, right?
Fremen,
Okay.
who are now united behind Paul,
Right.
they launch a full-scale attack.
Oh, wow.
They use their knowledge of the desert,
Yeah.
atomic weapons,
Right.
and the sandworms.
The sandworms
Yeah.
to attack the Sardaukar.
Exactly.
Wow.
And they totally overwhelm them.
No way.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And during the chaos, Paul confronts Baron Harkonnen.
His grandfather.
Yeah. And he kills him.
Wow.
Yeah. And at the
Wow.
same time, the Emperor is captured.
So the Harkonnens are defeated?
They are. And Gurney Halleck, he leads an attack on Arrakeen
Okay.
and kills Rabban.
Who's Rabban again?
He's Feyd-Rautha's older brother.
Got it.
The really brutal one.
Right. Okay, so the Harkonnens are gone.
They are.
But now there's a power vacuum.
Exactly.
What happens next?
Well, Paul challenges the Emperor for the throne.
For the throne of the entire known universe.
Yes. The whole thing.
Wow.
And to Chani's dismay,
Yeah.
he says he's going to marry Princess Irulan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a strategic move.
To solidify his claim to the throne.
Right. And to prevent more conflict.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the great houses,
The other powerful families.
yeah, they're not happy about this.
Right. They want the power for themselves.
Yeah. And they arrive in orbit above Arrakis, ready to invade.
Oh, no.
But Paul makes a daring threat.
What's that?
He says he'll destroy all the spice.
No way. If they try to stop him.
Exactly. It's a huge gamble.
It is.
Uh-huh.
So what do the great houses do?
Well, Feyd-Rautha steps forward
Okay.
as the Emperor's champion.
To fight Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a duel to the death,
Oh, wow.
and it's a brutal fight.
Who wins?
Paul.
Wow.
Yeah, he kills Feyd-Rautha.
So that's it for the Harkonnens then.
It is. They're all gone.
Wow. Okay, so what happens to Irulan?
Well, she agrees to marry Paul
Okay.
on the condition that her father's life is spared.
Right.
And the Emperor, he has no choice but to surrender.
So Paul's the new emperor.
He is.
But it doesn't sound like it's going to be easy.
No, it's not, because the great houses, they still don't accept him.
Right.
And in response, Paul orders the Fremen to attack their fleet.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's the beginning of the Holy War that he saw in his visions.
Well, then he was trying to prevent.
Exactly.
This is so sad.
It is. And in the final scene, Chani leaves Paul.
She can't accept his path.
Yeah, she loves him.
But she's afraid of him, too.
Exactly. And she rides off into the desert on a sandworm.
Wow. That's a powerful ending.
It is.
It really makes you think about the choices we make.
Yeah, and the consequences.
Okay, so that's the story.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious about how they made this film.
Yeah, me too.
Like, what went on behind the scenes?
Well, one thing that's really interesting is that Denis Villeneuve,
Yeah.
he always wanted to make Dune as 2 films.
Really?
Yeah, he said it was the only way to do justice to the book.
Yeah, the book is so dense.
It is.
It's like a whole world.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
even in the first Dune film,
Yeah.
if you look closely, the title card actually says Dune, Part 1.
Oh, wow. I didn't notice that.
Yeah. It's there for like 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. It's like a little hint at the sequel.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else is interesting about the making of this film?
Well, Villeneuve, he was very adamant about releasing it in theaters.
Okay.
He said it was non-negotiable.
Wow.
He really believes in the power of the theatrical experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way,
Yeah.
especially with a movie like this.
Exactly. It's so epic. It
Yeah.
needs to be seen on the big screen.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the languages they speak in the film?
Oh, yeah.
Are those real languages?
Well, they hired David Peterson.
Who's that?
He's the guy who created the languages for Game of Thrones.
Oh, wow. No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And he developed this whole language called Chakobsa.
For Dune?
Yeah.
Wow. So it's not just gibberish?
No, it's
Yeah.
a real language.
Oh, that's incredible.
And the actors actually learned how to speak it.
Wow. So that's why it sounds so authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so tell me more about Villeneuve's vision.
Well, he was really hands-on with everything.
I can imagine.
Like for the sandworm scenes,
Yeah.
he actually used his own drawings and storyboards.
Really?
Yeah, because he felt that the book didn't give enough detail,
Okay. Yeah?
for what he wanted to do on screen.
That's so cool that he's so artistic.
He is, and he even said that those sandworm scenes were some of his favorites.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what about Paul's character arc?
Well, Villeneuve saw it as a transformation into an anti-hero.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he didn't see Paul as a typical hero.
Right.
He saw him as someone who becomes the very thing he was fighting against.
Wow, that's deep.
It is.
It was kind of a tragic story.
Yeah.
Okay, and there was that scene
Yeah.
with Feyd-Rautha.
The gladiator scene.
Yeah.
That one was filmed with black and white infrared cameras.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Gives it this really stark look,
Oh, yeah.
High contrast, very striking,
Okay.
and it really captures the darkness of the Harkonnens. Yeah. And then the romantic scenes between Paul and Chalamet.
Yeah, those were beautiful.
They were.
Very, like, soft and warm.
Yeah. Well, they shot those during the golden hour.
What's that?
It's that time right after sunrise, or right before sunset,
Okay.
when the light is really soft and warm.
I see.
And they filmed those scenes in Jordan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they only had a limited amount of time to shoot?
Yeah, about an hour each day.
Wow, that's not a lot of time.
No, it's not.
But they made it work.
They did. And then there's the sandworm ride.
Oh, yeah. That was incredible.
It was.
How do they even do that?
It was a huge undertaking.
Okay.
It took a separate team 3 months to film.
What?
Yeah. And Timothée Chalamet, he was on this special platform
Right.
that simulated a section of the sandworm.
Wow.
And they used giant fans to blow sand around.
Oh, wow. So it was all practical effects.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's amazing. Okay, and what about the final fight scene?
The one between Paul and Feyd-Rautha?
Yeah.
Well, both actors had to train really hard for months.
Wow.
Yeah, they worked with a Kali instructor.
What's calling?
It's a Filipino martial art.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and they were both really dedicated to doing their own stunts.
Wow.
Yeah, they wanted to make it as realistic as possible.
That's awesome.
And another interesting thing,
Yeah.
Timothée Chalamet's monologue during that fight,
Yeah.
it's all in Chakobsa.
No way.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
it is.
So they really went all out with the language.
They did. And speaking of changes from the book,
Yeah.
Villeneuve actually changed the timing of Paul's Water of Life experience
Okay.
so that he could show an adult Alia in his visions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was a deliberate choice
I see.
to create more drama.
Right.
And they also compressed the timeline of Jessica's pregnancy
Okay.
for the same reason.
So it's all about creating that tension.
Exactly.
And I heard that they actually used footage from a real solar eclipse in the film.
Yeah, they did.
That's wild.
It was during the opening fight scene.
Oh.
Yeah, it adds this really cool layer of realism.
Yeah, for sure. It's like they used every opportunity to make this film as authentic as possible.
They did. And the cinematographer, Greg Fraser,
Yeah.
he was very specific about how he used the sunlight.
Okay.
Like in that scene with Lady Jessica in the
Yeah.
rock.
Yeah.
He planned it so that the sun would be in the perfect position.
Wow.
Yeah. It's all about the details.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about the production,
Yeah.
but what about the actors?
Oh, yeah. The cast is amazing.
It is.
So, Stellan Skarsgård.
Baron Harkonnen.
Yes.
He was so creepy.
He was.
And his makeup was insane.
It was.
How long did it take to apply that?
8 hours
8 hours.
every day.
Wow.
And then 2 hours to remove it.
That's intense.
It is.
So he was basically in that makeup chair for like 10 hours a day.
Pretty much.
Wow. And he even took medication to avoid bathroom breaks.
Yeah.
He was that dedicated.
He was.
That's incredible.
It is.
Okay, so what about Austin Butler?
Well, he got the role of Feyd-Rautha without even auditioning.
Really?
Yeah, it was after a coffee meeting with Villeneuve.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is?
So what did he do to prepare for the role?
He trained for 4 months
4 months.
with a former Navy SEAL.
Wow.
Yeah, he got really ripped.
Okay.
And Villeneuve described his performance as
Yeah.
a cross between a psychopath killer, an Olympic sword master, a snake, and Mick Jagger.
Wow, that's quite a combination.
It is. And Butler himself, he did a lot of research on brutal cultures.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he even studied animal movements,
Like what kind of animals?
sharks and snakes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and I heard that he improvised that kiss scene with the Baron.
He did.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow, that's pretty bold.
it was.
Okay, so there was also a surprise cameo in the film, right?
Yeah.
Anya Taylor-Joy
Yes.
as Elia Atreides.
That's right.
And nobody knew about it until the premiere.
Yeah, it was a total secret.
That's amazing.
It is.
I can't believe they kept that under wraps.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Okay, and a couple of actors actually filmed scenes that didn't make it into the final cut.
Yeah. Stephen McKinley Henderson?
Do for Hawat.
Yeah, and Tim Blake Nelson.
Oh, wow.
But we don't know what role he was playing.
Okay.
But they both got special thanks credits.
So Villeneuve still wanted to acknowledge their work.
Exactly.
That's nice of him. And what about Florence Pugh?
Princess Irulan.
Yeah.
Well, she recorded her opening narration on her very first day of filming.
Wow, talk about pressure.
I know, right?
Okay, and Rebecca Ferguson?
Lady Jessica.
Yeah, she had that really intense scene where she becomes the Reverend Mother.
Yeah.
How did she prepare for that?
She worked with contortionists.
Really?
Yeah, to get those unnatural movements.
Wow.
She said it was like something out of The Exorcist.
That's creepy.
It was a very intense scene.
Okay, and going back to Timothée Chalamet,
Yeah.
he spent 3 months filming those sandworm riding scenes. I can't even imagine how challenging that must have been.
It was. And you know what? He actually said he felt self-conscious while filming those scenes.
Really?
Yeah. He wasn't sure if he was doing it right.
Wow. I guess even the biggest stars get insecure sometimes.
They do.
Okay, and finally, Josh Brolin.
Gurney Halleck?
Yeah, he actually co-wrote a song for the film
He did.
with Hans Zimmer.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah. It's the song that Gurney sings in the movie.
That's so cool.
It is. And it just shows you how collaborative this whole production was.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so speaking of music,
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer returned to score Dune, Part 2.
He did?
And I heard he actually wrote a bunch of music before filming even started.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He had over 90 minutes of music ready to go
Wow, why did he do that?
to inspire Villeneuve.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is.
So they were really on the same page creatively.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about the marketing for Dune, Part 2.
Sounds good.
Okay, so remember that sandworm popcorn bucket? From AMC Theaters.
That thing went viral.
It did.
It was everywhere.
And it spawned so many names.
It did.
What did Villeneuve think about it?
He thought it was hilarious.
Really?
Yeah, he called it an insane marketing idea. Host speaker.